Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. I hope you enjoy. Story number 1, The Greatest Lie Ever Told, written by Objective Campaign 82. The greatest lie ever told to the galaxy was when the humans said that they were nothing special. On the surface it seemed a very valid claim. They were born under an entirely normal yellow sun, and their world's gravity was as close to a habitable average as one could get. On their home world of Earth, they were mid-tier in terms of the food chain, not the strongest, or the fastest, or the most durable, but capable of coming together and accomplishing some semblance of civilization. They, like many other species, were culturally and ethnically divided, and had the typical tendency to war amongst themselves. They had art, music, and literature, and like many other species, the value and appeal of such things were only known to them and their particular sense of aesthetics. They were friendly enough, odd to understand at times, and occasionally ventured across the romantic barrier of species to find comfort in the arms or other such limbs of another species. Some have claimed them to be the best kind of people to have as friends, but this is just a case of personal prejudice. Of course, your friend is the best friend a sapient could have. Their arrival onto the galactic stage changed the course of several empires as they began to assert themselves, but nothing world-changing. They showed themselves to be a difficult foe to conquer, skilled diplomats that could shift the balance of power, and industrious workers who could change the course of the galactic market. But these are all the normal consequences of a new emergent empire. And while their introduction of cheap steel had a significant impact on galactic economics, it wasn't the revolution that was cheap antimatter. All things considered, their claims of being nothing special seem to ring true. But if that's the case, then why do great things always seem to occur when there was a human involved? Over the last few years, the media has been abuzz with incredible and almost fantastic stories of great heroism, and at the center of all of them was a human. Take the case of the fire at the Titanium Street apartments. An electrical short and a ready supply of flammable paper quickly turned the whole brick building into an inferno. Residents rushed out to escape the flames, and local emergency services were called. And in all the chaos, a nest of arachnids hatchlings were left behind. Their mother cried when she arrived to find her offspring was still inside the building, but the fires were too intense for anyone to get through. All seemed lost. And then, without warning, a human bystander, who was not a resident, rushed past the emergency services and into the burning building without a second thought. Then, minutes later, the human male emerged with 8 tetrapodal hatchlings gripping his body like a life raft. He pried the hatchlings off of his body and passed them to their mother before finding a bench to collapse on. He had inhaled near-fatal amounts of carbon dioxide and only stayed awake from willpower alone. The human instinct to defend their young is well known, and it has been observed that the instinct will often cross the species barrier for a species they consider cute. But according to the sensibilities of one human analyst, arachnids are a cross of spiders and praying mantis juiced up on nightmare fuel. Very much not cute. There is also the case of Boros Star, where a human soldier held the line so that his non-human comrades could safely fall back, posthumously earning the Balvexian Medal of Honor, the only non-human Balvexian to ever do so. On the same front of the Balvexian Senate War, a human medic was reported to save over 20 lives in the middle of an active combat zone, only stopping when a stray bullet passed through his chest. The Balvexian the medic was resuscitating said the medic didn't stop even when their lines were overrun, and his life was in danger. On another front of the Balvexian Senate War, a human major made a daring attack by intentionally crashing his own dropship into the Senate headquarters just after ordering his men out of the ship with a parachute packs. While the Senate were reading from the attack on their headquarters, the human platoon safely landed around the enemy base and took it within the day, effectively destabilizing the enemy command and securing a human victory on Ventus. Further into Senate territory, a human smuggler ship infiltrated a critical mining facility, freed its captive workforce, and safely returned all 1,200 slaves to their families. On the halls of the Galactic Forum, human diplomats and ambassadors began to paint the nature of the Senate Empire as an affront to all sapient species, even swaying the other slaver empires who had previously been part of the Senate bloc. The shift in popular opinion swayed the greater galaxy and ultimately allowed for sweeping sanctions that crippled the Senate economy. Wherever you hear stories of greatness these days, you will also find humans standing off to the side, benignly pretending that they are nothing special. But it has become very apparent that there is more than meets the eye to these humans. Because if they're nothing special, then what does that make the rest of us? End of story. Story number 2. The Height of Arrogance, written by P4-34-M0. To enter jump space, one must prove that it exists, and in doing so, it'll reach out and prove that you exist. Unknown jump space technician. Lanomer had been a jump space navigator for all of his life, just like his father and his father before him, just like every being of his species. Renowned navigators, all of their 1,000 generations. Heavyset, a large creature of notable mass and cross-section, he was perfectly in tune with his ship, his crew. He knew every inch of the ship from top to bottom, every bolt and nut and sheets of plates, accounted for, memorized in his superior memory. It had to be. The alternative was smearing himself and his passengers across light years of space as an atomically thin paste of wasted talent. Because from the moment of his drive rings began spooning to the moment he dropped back out. Because as soon as they began untangling the formula as old as time, he would be fighting for his life, and the lives of every sentient being in cold storage below him. It would not be a battle of strength, no. It would be cold, calculated math. The calculus of existence. To prove jump space existed was to prove you were inside it, and to prove that you were inside it required proof that you existed to be inside it. Success would mean safe passage. Failure would erase the pilot from existence in an instant, leaving the ship to fall against the boundary planes at thousands of light years per second. The result would be visible for years to come. All systems green, equations prepped, go on your mark. Lanomer didn't like her, his new human co-pilot. He didn't like humans as a whole, pretentious upstarts that they were. 1,000 generations spent sculpting the best jump space pilots the galaxy had ever seen, and they were upset by a fraction of the time by a species who couldn't even remember what they'd had for breakfast. But they were mandatory on every jump ship now, as a backup failsafe, if not full pilots. It wasn't that she irked him in any way. It wasn't personal. But as she handed him his equations, he couldn't help but feel that little twinge of annoyance. His equations were thick, voluptuous, rich with data and calculations and merits. Weight-mass ratio, gravity displacement mapping, the weight of his hair, and the amount of dead skin he lost every day, all listed, categorized, memorized in sheets of hard-copied paper, which proved, without a doubt, that he existed. The stack reached his elbow, even reclined in his command couch. The human, on the other hand, had a single sheet of paper, just one. It took less than a breath to read it off. She had explained it to him once, back when her single sheet of paper was unbearable and not just annoying, what it meant. She did not use math to prove she existed, because merely by existing she deserved to keep existing. So great was her arrogance, her trust in herself and her existence, that in trusting herself she made herself exist. It was cyclical. It made no sense. But it worked for her, and it worked for millions, billions of other humans, all of them coming, going, laughing, hating, fully uncaring that their existence was based only on a lie of themselves, on the arrogance to assume that by credit of existing in that single moment that they would exist in the next, and the next, forever. It was so simple, it was the height of arrogance. I think, therefore I am. End of story. I would quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and Patreons. Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Lord Azrakal, It's Difficult to Pronounce, Dragzoon WRE, Holly's Sister, Arcadian. Thank you very much.